Hi, my name is Lindy Cowling. Welcome to this channel. My website is www.lindycowling.co.uk. My email is info@lindycowling.co.uk. The title of this video today, the day of the solar eclipse, 21st of August, is Celestial Bodies. Celestial bodies, named because of the eclipse today, but also to do with what I'm talking about and the angle I'm coming from as well. So celestial bodies. So I'm going to leap straight in because hopefully I don't want this video to be too long. And really let's say my inspiration, because how I work is a bit like a writer or an artist or someone else creative, where I'll get up one day or I'll wake up in the middle of the night or early hours of the morning and I'll suddenly have this impetus really to be creating or sharing with others, or inspiration or realization, a bit like a writer or a songwriter, or etc. etc. So this was the case. It was kind of building up yesterday, so to speak, but this was the case yesterday evening and during the night, but also almost like further validated in a way by a video I watched by Matt Kahn. If you haven't seen Matt Kahn's work, I've been aware of Matt's work for at least two years. It might be longer than that, 2.5 years. I resonate with an awful lot of what he says and shares, and the way he says and shares it. I really like him. So this video, as it was coming, let's say, to my consciousness, this video that I'm doing here now was kind of further validated in another piece of the puzzle by a video I watched by Matt Kahn just recently, the most recent one he's brought out. So check out his channel, True Divine Nature, I think it's called, for his latest video. So that kind of further prompted me, pushed me in this direction. But also just watching this morning as I was preparing to come on here, while I was having my breakfast, I was watching Lisa Transcendence Brown's latest video, which also further validated what I was going to say this morning. I really like Lisa Transcendence Brown. If you haven't checked out any of her work, please do so. I'm guessing you would enjoy it or get, lots of value from it. So, celestial bodies. Okay, so where I'm going to come from on this, I'm going to start in a particular direction, and it might deviate a little bit, so bear with me. So celestial bodies, let's talk about firstly, obviously this video is coming out on the day of the solar eclipse, which is significant in terms of propelling us forward in our awareness, in our consciousness, and let's call it the fabric of reality that we are aware of, being, let's say, even more transparent and even more able to be decoded by us according to the experience we want to be living and experiencing. So I'm already deviating off, which I didn't mean to deviate off, but I've got to run with it while it's coming to me. So for some time now, I've been aware in my own reality as a living, walking human being through the roller coaster of life, through my own reality, that for the last 2 to 3 years, I've been aware of not only getting glimpses of other pre-existing or currently existing inter- and intra-dimensional aspects and inter- and intra-dimensional beings, but also that these have been able to be captured on camera. Now you could say some of that's because I'm a natural medium anyway, so I'm used to working by reading and decoding different realities as a course in the course of my work. I mean, that's in a way what a medium does when they're linking to someone that's in another dimension that's essentially passed over or died. They're giving evidence that that dimension is running and those people have, let's say, gone over to heaven or whatever. So perhaps it was a natural, because it's a natural ability I have to decode that like other mediums. Maybe that's been helpful in my process or in this process. But I've been aware for the last 2 or 3 years of seeing with my physical eyes, but also picking up on camera inter and intradimensional beings, which I feel have always been there, but you get to a level of your consciousness and awareness where you're able to decode the viewing and feeling and seeing of those dimensions. Because of your own awareness and consciousness, you're able to see them, feel them, etc. And then even, you know, capture them on camera by almost like a rate of vibration, a rate of perception. So you're able to do this. So I'm deviating right off here, but you'll see where I'm going with this in a minute. So the fabric of reality, or the reality that we're living in, I've been aware for the last 2 to 3 years that is very different to what most of us think it is or feel it is. And there is a heck of a lot of stuff going on with and around our everyday lives. When we're focused on basic things, there's a lot of stuff going on. And at this point in time, which has been building up for a long time, but at this point in time, and I feel still building up for the rest of the month and going into September, that fabric, or those veils between timelines and realities and inter and intradimensional existences alongside us are even, let's say, not only thinner, but actually disintegrating like bits of gossamer thread, or, you know, web, really disintegrating. Excuse me. So we are able to not only see through this, but we're actually decoding. That's how I feel. We're decoding through a process of our own evolution, decoding these realities. So the things like the eclipse and situations like that are going on at the moment are, let's say, enhancing that and upping the ante, so to speak. So I'm deviating off again, and I feel like I have to, before I leap into again where I'm going with this. A lot of people have been asking me lately, and it links to this, why is it that some of the people that they've been following in the public eye or on media or like on YouTube, why is it that suddenly certain people that they've been following have suddenly deviated off left field and gone either in a totally different direction or suddenly become very fixed in like quoting the Bible and gone down that route? Now, these people aren't my clients. They are all known to me. And, you know, I actually love some of their work, or have loved their work, or I still love their work. What I will say, my own perception on it is, as we are decoding and recoding and accessing information and inputs that we didn't have before in order for us to reach, as I've said many times on this YouTube channel, a neutral state of reality, fully conscious, a zero neutral point state of reality. I feel that at the 11th hour, a very human trait of us, human aspect of us, grabs hold of a very deeply imprinted template at that point. Why do I say this? Because I have previously seen it myself, and it wasn't a religious template for me, but I've seen it all over the world where people at that 11th hour, there is almost like an inherent, I could say a fear or a resistance. It's very, very deep, or even like a knee-jerk response from the very human personality part of us, very deep. I'm not saying that this is on a personality level deeper than that, and it's really back in the subconscious mind, to grab for anything that prevents us being neutral. Why? Because most people are petrified of being neutral. Some people call it the void. I call it the space in between. Neutral, 0 point field. Why are they afraid of it? Because their whole fabric of reality has been assembled by linking in with belief systems and perceptions of who they are, what life is, what reality is, what their identity is. I could go on and on and on about this, and I've mentioned this many times on this channel before. And so the temptation at that 11th hour is to, on a very deep level, fill neutral, 0 point, full consciousness point with a very old entrenched belief system about something, because it's almost like they grab for it, decoding that, because really, if underneath, or you could say why. Let's say it's as a last minute attempt, really, on a very deep unconscious level, to make sense and to cling to, let's say, a structure in a way of security, to make sense of things, to make sense of the world, rather than enter a neutral 0 point field state. The dead giveaway with this, you could say to me, but surely some people, perhaps they just feel what they feel or believe what they believe. Absolutely. I mean, everyone to their own. What I would say is, where it's really obvious that someone inadvertently is filling that space with a belief system, is that they become quite almost like quite fanatical about it. And I'm going to use the word fanatical because I've seen it across the world, and I've also seen it with some people in the public arena, in the public in the media. I'm not saying this at all as any criticism. I've been asked these questions many times, especially in the last couple of weeks, and I'm giving you my interpretation of it from a totally non-judgmental view. I have no judgment on it at all, and the people that are being referenced to me, I'm not going to name them, because there's 3 different ones, because it's absolutely up to them. But because I've been asked by people, and people are unsubscribing to their channels because of the, let's say, the religious dogma that goes with it, and the quotes from the Bible, people are not liking it so much, or it's triggering them. What I would say is, my perception of it is, at an 11th hour, the closest way we can describe, also, there's another angle on this, 0 point neutral point field of energy. Let's say it's a very deep thing in the human psyche, is the only words we have to describe that in any recorded history of our cultures, is you kind of describe that as God, I guess. So it's a decoding thing. It's the closest thing to 0 point neutral point field of energy. My perception on that, as another thing I would say, it's interesting to note that the 3 sets of people in question, or the 3 people in question, are originally from religious coded backgrounds. Now, I don't come from any religious coding background whatsoever, in any way, shape or form. That isn't there in my background. But what I will say is, maybe it's the easiest way to decipher that state is to grab for the only thing we can describe it as. Not saying that's wrong, not saying that's right. What I'm saying is it's interesting, and people are asking me, and it links in with the fabric of reality and the 0 point field that I'm talking about in this video, and galactic bodies. It's all interwoven, as you'll see in a minute. And it's interesting that people are jumping one way or another. And like I say, you can see if somebody's linking into a belief system, because there's a certain fervour or almost panic about what is being shared. Like, why aren't people seeing this? And it's just very interesting. I'm not going to, you know, from my perception, if people ask me outright, you know, what do I believe along those lines, I don't really think it's relevant here, but I will say that I'm not anti those beliefs at all, but I'm not fervent there. I mean, what for me I would describe as, you know, Christ consciousness, really, or I don't really use the words Holy Spirit, but I use the words Christ or Christ consciousness. Occasionally in my videos I've used the word God, but not in any religious worshipping context whatsoever. So I don't want to go too far off left field here, but what I'm talking about in a way relates to this video, because we're at that pivotal point in history now where the temptation to fill a 0 point neutral state of consciousness and awareness at that 11th hour is very strong in people to grab for a very deep knee-jerk unconscious, subconscious belief system or network of belief in order to fill that and to try to make sense of their reality, decode their reality, make sense of their life, and to almost like fill this space. And I find it interesting. No judgment on my part whatsoever. And the people that have been referenced to me, I know of all the people that have been referenced to me, and even, you know, advocate their work. I don't have any knee-jerk response to what's happening there. Find it interesting. People are asking me about it and asking me for my take on it. So it is relevant to what I'm talking about here, because it is to do with decoding one's sense of reality, decoding and the temptation to fill a 0 point neutral field of consciousness. As human beings, there is an inherent, very primal fear of being in a neutral state, even sitting in a neutral state. People will do whatever they can to avoid that. And most people who say they understand what a neutral state or 0 point field state is have never experienced it. If you are accessing being conscious or being fully conscious, you do have an awareness of coming back to a neutral state, but even then I'm seeing people in that 11th hour filling that neutral state with something, because there's a need to fill it with something. So it's interesting. It weaves into what I'm saying here now, because at this point in time, not just now at this solar eclipse time, but right the way through, I feel like it's going to go on for a few weeks yet, is a really golden opportunity to be with that 0 point neutral state of energy, to enable us to realign, readjust, reassimilate, and re-embody what we kind of came here to re-embody, really. And grabbing for a very strong belief system aside from that can almost like take you off left field or take you off track there. This point in time as well, when I call this celestial bodies, I want to just go into the, let's say, the physical body side of it here, because I have a lifetime history of a lifetime until the last 2 years, interestingly, of not wishing to be present in my body, being very good at not being present in my body, at learning before I can even remember how early it was that I learned to disassociate from the body. That I learned that very early on because of the environment I was brought up in and the trauma I was brought up in. Didn't know I had learned how to disassociate since I was like kind of that high, and was disassociating as a way of kind of leaving the body right up to 2 years ago. Now, a big part of that was the trauma I was brought up in, but also because for the last 17 years, I have worked in the light worker industry in many different ways, as a medium, as a healer, as a hypnotherapist, as a natural channel, as within the Twin Flame Union, talking about the soul, all that kind of thing, all those different levels, past life regression, future life regression, the list goes on. Working within that gave me the perfect excuse to keep leaving the body, because I could just go out into La La Land automatically without really having to think about it, because it was a natural state for me to disassociate. Working in trance and being trained how to work in trance through hypnotherapy gave me even more access and more practice to work at different levels and different dimensional levels, but also a really good excuse to leave the body. Interestingly enough, my body, through many years of my life, has been screaming at me to pay attention to it and to actually not leave it. And of course, the more it screamed at me and pay attention, and the more pain and suffering it gave me, the more I left it. It's only the last 2 years that I have learned, and it's almost been like by a natural process of my own evolution, to not only not disassociate from the body anymore, regardless of what's going on around me, whether it's drama around me, trauma around me, anything else. I've been given every set of possible circumstances and opportunities which would normally have me racing off to the stars, but it hasn't. It's given me the opportunity to prove to myself over and over again to stay in the body. Now, there has been side effects of that, many side effects of that, and it's been a massive learning process to be in the body all the time, 24/7, not just now and again, all the time, 24/7. And there has been byproducts of that, and some of those byproducts of that as I've become much heavier than I've ever been in this life. So I'm very conscious of being here and anchored, and that's been a really big part of my process. I don't intend to stay at this weight that I'm at now, because it's much heavier than my normal weight, but I can now see what it's all been about to force me in a way to kind of anchor this and stay present and stay here. Also, a long history of pain and illness in the body. Now I have a totally different relationship with my body and understand what the whole thing is about, and that we're here to experience as a walking, talking, living body. You know, it's all part of it. And so my whole perception of that and my whole relationship to my body has been very different over the last 2 years. And every about 6 months or so, it's different again. And what's been fascinating to me is I knew about 18 months ago, I'm actually here, anchored, present, not leaving the body anymore, not disassociating whatever's going on around me. And I've been given plenty of opportunities to do the old trick that I was doing, and I have not been doing it. And it was great to see this video by Matt Kahn a couple of days ago, which was kind of validating everything I knew, but it was coming from a level there that I totally understood. And what's great about that video is he bypassed any kind of habitual, almost belief system, that word again, response that I might have had there, and he bypassed that, talking basically to us as body consciousness, which my body has responded to really well. And, you know, that's like, yes, he knows what he's doing here. in that video, he talks about extensively that for many years he has left his body until the last about 15 or something, when he stayed present in it. He just was off again, dissociating everywhere because he could, and he, you know, it was really tedious really being in the body. So again, it's really interesting how he describes in that once one comes to a state of awareness where one is then fully present in the body 24/7, one is actually coming into their mastery at that point. You know, they're in their mastery because they had, let's say, effectively left the body many times, sometimes astrally, sometimes in energy, or sometimes actually, let's say, physically died and left the body but chose to come back. And once the choice has been made on a soul level by us to, let's say, resurrect within the body, ascend within the body, doing it all whilst living and anchoring it into this present 0 point, neutral point field of reality, then one is, you know, beginning their mastery really, or that, you know, that they're on that track then. So it really is interesting to me, and I know I've deviated off a little bit, but it all interrelates. It all interrelates what I'm saying here. Being actually living this, anchoring it, the temptation is at these 11th hour, when you see globally things that might have been frightening to you or are frightening to you at that time, if you're at that stage of your process where you're still getting triggered and frightened by those things, the natural, almost like instinct, is to be angry about that, or shy away from it, or there's these knee-jerk responses, or run away from it, or pretend it's not there, or, you know, there's a number of ways that you can react. And all of those ways, really, the response is not to be kind of like neutral about things and just dealing with this very second, what's here and now for you, because the knock-on effect is, if you approach it that way for you, because of the interconnectedness of all our consciousness, I often refer to us as stitches within the same tapestry. All of humanity, stitches within the same tapestry, or an oak tree, infinite leaves on the oak tree. Because of that interconnectedness, not only is it such a powerful transformative thing to be aware of you as a neutral state, minus the belief systems and the programming, minus any of that, but as a conscious co-creator of the reality that you wish to experience, that reality that is life-giving, that is all about life, it's about living it. Not only is it huge for you, but as a stitch in that tapestry, it has, of course, the knock-on effect to the collective. And so the more stitches in that tapestry that are becoming self-aware and conscious and in a neutral space, not an empty space, because I don't mean empty. When I say neutral, I don't mean that there's just totally nothing there. I mean a neutral state of awareness where you are, well, we could say again, fully present. We could say fully present in the moment, here and now, just engaged with what is happening at this second, not what has been, not what might happen, not responses from everything that you have been programmed with. Just here and now as it is in this moment. I mean, how many people live that way? It's getting to be more and more and more, but how many live that way? And again, life, let's say life, presents you with plenty of circumstances not to live that way. And the challenge really is kind of hauling your arse back into gear and getting back into that moment and that 0 point. Look, depending on where you are in your process, don't beat yourself up with this, because you might be at a part of your process where you are being triggered left, right and centre by people around you or world events around you, or by family or by friends, or you might not be at that. You might be pretty much 0 point, but you're triggering, by being 0 point, you're triggering the people around you and their behaviour. So it is a matter of taking it day by day, but it is an extraordinary time, and being fully present in your body as really a celestial body yourself, but in your body, it being anchored, living it, walking it, talking it, breathing it. I'm going to say, I always use this expression when I'm explaining this. I say warts and all, not that I've got any warts, but when I say warts and all, I mean every aspect of you, you as a human being, the good, the bad, the ugly. I don't mean it that way. I'm trying to explain it that all levels, you're not just acceptable on one level. I mean on all levels, the integration of all of who you are, by kind of reining your mind in to not run with that ball down back to the past, worrying about the future, or even say you're in a let's put it this way, say you're in a reality at the moment that is not comfortable for a million reasons. It could be that you're in poverty, it could be that you're in isolation, it could be that you're in poor health, it could be that you're suffering in a myriad of ways. If you're in a reality that isn't ideal, don't beat yourself up about that, or how you got there, or whatever. Take yourself into this present moment and just sit with it. Don't beat yourself up, and take yourself into almost like a non-judgmental 0 point state of awareness, a neutral state of awareness. If you find yourself deviating off down somewhere, ask yourself, where does that come from? Is it a belief system? Did that come from the family? Does that come from friends? Does that come from the culture? Does it come from something I'm affiliated with? Does it bring up fear for me? Am I afraid to be in that kind of like state? And just kind of like sit with it, really sit with it, because if you do that, you're giving yourself an opportunity to, it's not really rewriting those programs, it's to deprogram. It's not rewriting it, it's to deprogram. It's to come into a neutral state. It's almost like, I call it a level playing field. That's my language for it. I say the slate is wiped clean, it's a level playing field. You're giving yourself an opportunity to come into that state. And that kind of, from that state, then one can start to create the reality they want, and they are aligned at that point with their highest possible potential and outcome, which maybe they hadn't been aligned with before. So I'm conscious that I'm starting to waffle here a bit. I'm working in a slightly different way at the moment. You've probably noticed that, and I've noticed it. If I've looked back and checked before I put them up line, if I've checked a couple of my videos to see what they're like, I noticed that I'm starting to work a different way slightly, and that's because I guess my awareness and consciousness is changing. So I am, oh, and my cat's agreeing. It's coming straight out from my heart, and my mind and mouth is playing catch up. Now, it's done that all along, but I'm doing it much faster now. So it's much faster because I guess I'm getting better at it, and I've been living from the heart for a few years now. So it takes a while for my mind and mouth to catch up, and I've noticed in the last couple of videos I'm like a few times. It's not because I don't know what to say next, it's my mouth has to have a chance to catch up with what's coming out. So it's interesting. I am working a different way. I mean, I foresee that's going to keep changing as well as people are changing, the collective is changing, and I'm changing. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you, because I don't want to waffle on. So basically, stay in your body, whatever part of the process you're at. The temptation is to leave the body. Sit with your body, stay with your body, listen to your body, because you are experiencing your life within your wonderful body as consciousness within your body. wherever you're at in your process and whatever's going on. Also notice if is triggering going on around you, or notice if you find it blissful and peaceful, even entertaining the idea of being in a neutral 0-point field of reality, or if that brings up fear for you. And if it brings up fear, why? Or if there's a strong temptation to fill it with something, I am not for 1 second saying that's wrong. What I'm saying is entertain the idea of what you're filling it with and why, and what that's about. It's just interesting. You may learn loads about yourself. You may free up some templating, you know. You might decide to run with whatever that's bringing up with you and decide to align your feelings or beliefs with it, or not. And you will learn so much about yourself that way. But if it all sounds like too much hard work, well, we're at that stage at the moment where to become self-realized, self-actualized, self-aware, and anchored here. This is part of it. This is all part of the process. And just listen to yourself, listen to your bodies, listen to yourself while this is going on, because it is extraordinary times. But and just go with it. I'm waffling. I'm going to get off here. So as always, thank you for watching the channel. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for supporting me in any way that you can and that you have been. Look after yourselves. Happy Eclipse for you. And I will see you on camera again soon. I'll love you and leave you. Thank you. Bye, guys. Bye.